evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this evening to our fans forum, and thank you also for coming tonight, as I know it is a rearranged date, so we really do appreciate you giving up your cold evening for this. As you can see, we've got our panel ready to answer your questions. We've got Technical Director Brian Tinnion, Chairman Jon Lansdown, Head Coach Liam Manning, and Club Captain Jason Knight. So the way this is going to work, we'll do some brief introductions, and then we'll just open the floor. It is also being streamed live on Robins TV, YouTube and Facebook. So if we have time, we'll take some questions from online as well. And just a little bit of housekeeping. If you haven't registered your car, make sure you do so via the QR code at the bar. So without further ado, I'll introduce our panel again. And just a quick word from each of you. But Brian, I know you wanted to just sort of mention this season so far, a little bit on recruitment and our fantastic academy.
Yeah. First, Jamie Knight-LaBelle last night was a fantastic achievement from him to make his debut for Canada national team, so that was fantastic for him. Very, very pleased for him. He's doing extremely well at Crewe on loan, playing every game now and progressing really well. He's one we're watching closely. He will probably stay there for the rest of the season, and then hopefully next pre-season come and join in and see where he is with Liam's squad. Luke Skinner, a young striker, just turned 17, signed a 3-year pro yesterday. Really excited about him. Trained with the first team a few times and is really impressing everyone. Josh Campbell-Slow, he's training with the first team constantly. Elijah Morrison, obviously, you've seen a little bit of, and we've got high hopes for. So, yeah, really pleased with how things are going. 18's at top of the league. Mickey Bell's doing a great job with them. So we've got some exciting ones in there as well. So, and a lot of them getting an opportunity to train constantly with the first team and really doing us proud, really. So we're really pleased.
Great. And next up, Jon, I know you wanted to speak about the foundation because this evening we've had some amazing news, actually. Some representatives from the Robins Foundation are in Belgium, and they have won the European Football for Development Network's More Than Football Award, which is an amazing achievement. Yeah, a round of applause for them. It's actually been a great week because it's EFL Week of Actions. We've been doing some amazing player appearances as well, and we're really proud of our foundation, Jon.
Yeah, absolutely, and just wanted to sort of put on record big congratulations to the guys involved in the project, Jade Adams, who's been leading on the ground, James Edwards, who came up with the project, and everyone involved in the foundation should be proud. It's the project that we won the Football League Award for best project in sort of back in, I think it was April time. And then they've picked sort of the best projects across Europe, and it's won that award as well. So I mean, it's something they should be really proud of. It's great work.
And we'll go to Liam next, and I've just dragged him here as well after another great appearance for the EFL Week of Action. We had some players, didn't we, down at St Paul's Community Centre. It's a fantastic week for the football club.
Yeah, terrific. It was. We had Marcus and Anis joining in tonight with a load of lads that were there, and I'm sure the sports science lot were probably worried because they were running around for 15 minutes like lunatics with a load of different age kids. So it was really good to see. And I think probably before we get into it, just I'd like to say a huge thank you from me and my family for the support that everyone in the room and the wider fan group shown us. Tough one, but the Leeds one was a really special moment that will live with me forever. So I'll forever hold this club in my heart extremely closely. So from me and my family, it's just a massive thank you for that. And it definitely played a big part in me coming back quite quickly, the support that we received. So before I pass on tonight, it was a massive thank you for that because it means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, Nighty, just back from international duty. First of all, tell us how that went. I know you didn't get to play against England, did you? Got a booking. But also, after that, just a word on your new role as club captain.
Yeah, on the international front, it was obviously mixed. A good result against Finland, and then picked up a booking, so I missed out on a good game. A good game for England, anyway. But yeah, I would have looked forward to playing in that game. But no, back here, and then, like you say, being club captain is obviously a huge honour for me. I'm obviously only relatively still new to the club, coming in last year. So thank you to everyone who's supporting me. I think we're doing all right so far, but obviously still pushing for more, and I'm just trying to look after my own performances first and foremost.
Amazing. Okay, well, without further ado, let's open the floor to questions. If you could say who you want to direct that question to, or we'll decide who's best to answer it. But go ahead, and we've got Emily and Jerry on hand with the mics. And yeah, we'll go this gentleman first.
Okay, Ash, you go first.
Okay, this one's for Liam. First of all, it's lovely to have you back and lovely to see you with a smile on your face, given everything. So that's great to see. It's been a year since you've been at the football club, and most of all, the thing I'm wondering more than anything else is, out of all the highs, all the lows, all the moments in between, what would you say is number one result, number one evening, number one at the football club you've had so far?
It feels like I've done about 300 games. There's a lot to call back on. West Ham away was a special one for me last year. I think, the performance, going back to somewhere I spent 4 years and then seeing the fans bounce around was a hugely special moment. So that was definitely, I've got a few to be fair, that was a hugely special one. Despite not being there, Middlesbrough was one that was a big performance recently, which again meant a huge amount, as did Leeds here. So I've got so many, to be totally honest. I think it's hard to isolate one. I think you get different feelings, different emotions, different experiences, different highs, learning in different lows in all the experiences I probably had. So it's been I've loved every minute of the year. It's been challenging, of course, at times. It's not gone how we've wanted at times. It's heading in the right direction for me where I think we're at. Still, like Nighty said, we've got lots to do. But yeah, it's been an enjoyable year, but one that I've learned a lot in, and one that I think we're going to continue improving to build on.
Okay, anyone else? Over here.
What song do you want? Okay. So this is sort of a two-part question. The first one, I guess, is a little bit more aspirational. When are we going to get promoted to the Premier League? But the second one, I think, is more directed at the guys who've been a bit longer. What is the strategy to get to the Premier League? And the reason I asked that question was watching the football in the summer abroad, talking to a Bournemouth fan, and he said, he's the same age as me, started watching his team in the 80s, I started watching City in the 80s, and he said, I remember a time when you were bigger than us, he said, and you used to come down and you know, there was a big feeling about the club. What's happened, I guess, over the last 10 years or so, or however many years Bournemouth have been doing well, they've sort of overtaken us, and they seem to like some of our players. So I'm just wondering, what aspirationally, when would you like to get, and obviously it's as soon as possible, but how are we going to get there? What's the strategy?
Well, I've answered it, yeah. Well, what we're doing, we're recruiting young, hungry players for the football club. I think you can see in the last 2, 3, 4 windows, we've recruited 25 and below. Every player is young, hungry, and we think can play at a higher level. And they're driven, and they want to do that. And they come here, they see the facilities, they see the staff we've got who can make them better, and they want to come here. I think we've every player we've met and showed the HPC, I don't think there's a player that's turned us down. So they want to come here, and I think the squad is looking young and hungry. I think your Hayden Roberts, your Knighties, your Birds, your Hughes, Luke McAnally's just coming in young, all 25 and below, and really hungry. So that's our strategy, and that's what we're going to continue to do. There's no more coming here for your final payday. That's not happening.
I was going to say, that sort of felt a few years ago, like there was some players coming
Yeah.
in, and they were looking at pension funds.
Yeah.
But there was a definite feeling.
And we've stuck, the last 2 years, we've stuck to that. I think Rob Dickey's the only one who was over 25, and what a really good signing. We've watched. And the good thing is we watched Rob, or the recruitment team has watched Rob for 4 years since he was at Oxford, so we knew exactly what he was.
Is it true it was almost like a, sorry, is it true it was almost like a chance sort of signing? was it sort of something that, you know, we looked at? Or
well, we watched him for 4 years, and we didn't get him when he went to QPR. We got a phone call. He had 1 year left on his contract, and they said he could go. We got a phone call saying he wanted to come here, and then it was done in 2 days. So he was. Well, young and hungry players. That's how we're going to get there. When these young and hungry players get us there. Yeah. But they're going to improve. No, they're going to get better. They're young players who are going to get better. And, you know, I don't think they could be driven by anyone better than the captain on the table, to be honest. And that's what we want. That driven by someone like that. And I think we will.
Yeah, if you want a more sort of club overview, it's the same when we hired Liam. I mean, we're looking for someone who... So you've got the facility, you've got the programme, which Liam and his staff, you know, I don't think any of the players can, you know, whether they're involved or not involved, they all get the same treatment, the same development. So you can't just bring young, hungry players and expect them to grow. They've got to be developed too. So that is opportunity, but it is also what they get when they're not in the team. So, you know, we've signed players in the summer as well that are particularly young. You know, they're new to the country, everything else. They're going to take some time to settle. It's really important that they're developed, even if you're not seeing it at the moment. So it's when are we going to get there? Well, we've got to keep doing that well and get better and better at it. And look, we've got good players in the group, and we're hoping they take us with them. And then it's if they have to move on before we get there, we make sure we're recruiting better again. And we just got to keep going. And I think if you've got the programme with Liam and his team, and you've got the facilities, which Brian's talked about, we don't have a problem attracting the right players to the club. So it's then just about putting it together.
And I guess we could just add on to that for 90 to say, what was your first impression when you came to the High Performance Centre, and where do you think this club can go?
I think it's an outstanding facility. I think it was, like Tin said, when you come there, it's impressive. It's where you want to train every day. It's where you want to work. And then obviously the stadium's a great stadium as well, and the fans get behind the club as well. So I think just echoing what the lads are saying there, it's top to bottom, everyone's going in the right direction. And results obviously vary on a Saturday, but everyone knows that we're going in the right direction internally, so that's what we're going to keep doing.
Great. Okay. Next up. Yeah, do you want to go to the front right here?
Can I drill into that a little bit more? Okay, so you've got young players, and I assume what's happening is in the old days, kids got to 15, any good, Herbie Kane, they'd off to Liverpool, Man United. And I assume the pitch you're saying to the agents and the parents, you do that, you'll be subbed, you won't even get on the pitch, and then you'll end up at Doncaster or whatever. I assume that you can maybe give a bit more detail on that, your pitch to agents and why young people like you come to our club. But you've got young kids, right? They're talented, and you're improving them. But then you're selling them, right? Semenyo got sold. Tommy Conway, what happened to Tommy Conway? So if you keep getting these people who probably have the ability to develop in Premiership players, but you sell them before we get there, we're never going to make it. So what is the strategy to go from that, yeah, we're going to be a club that's going places, but actually to make it and to stay there? Because we look at the yo-yo clubs, right, Norwich and whatever, West Brom, we don't want to be that. But I look at the Brightons, I look at the Brentfords. Afraid if I look at their owners, John, they are guys who come out of the gambling industry, who understand risk, and they understand managing risk. You know, Brighton have gone to the South American market. Brentford have gone to the Danish market, but they seem to have a strategy, a whole club strategy. It's not just the team and the manager. It really is the club and how it's run by you and your father and you as head of recruitment. What is that strategy to actually get us there and to make us sustainable?
Well, when Tommy Conway's got 2 years left in his contract, and you start talking to Tommy and saying, look, we want to extend your contract, we want to extend it, and he's got absolutely no interest in extending his contract, when it gets to a year left in his contract, you have to sell him.
But why does he have no interest?
Well, because he wants to move somewhere else.
Yeah, because he doesn't believe we're a project that's going to make it.
No,
when do we get to that point?
It's because he's getting bad advice.
He's getting money. He's getting more money.
It's not the same for everyone.
It's money.
So it is bad advice, and it's short term.
Well, it depends. It's not bad advice if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
But he's old enough to make that decision, isn't he? We offered him the highest paid for his age ever at the football club. and he was not interested, one iota. So with a year left on his contract, we have to sell him.
I understand that.
So Mendy got to a point where he wanted to go to the Premier League. Alex Scott wanted to go to the Premier League. They got to a point where we could not recontract them, so we have to get the best money from them. So that's the strategy. Then we invest the money in Jason Knight and Bird and you, Hirakawa, and Fally and Armstrong, Sinclair Armstrong. That's what we do. That's what we have to do.
I think we're going to end up selling these players in a year or two's time.
If they want to get to the Premier League, or people, if somebody comes with Jason Knight with a year left and he wants to go to the Premier League, he'll go to the Premier League.
Yeah.
That's why we've got to try and get there with them. But it gets to a point where we have to sell them because they'll go out of contract and they'll walk out of the club for free. And then how can we reinvest in the team?
So how do you stop that quandary?
Get the Premier League this season. But
I actually think.
John,
I actually think.
John, your family is investing.
Let's let Liam.
I was just going to jump in because I actually know some of the staff quite well at Brentford, and actually a good friend of mine played there for many years. And if you actually look at how they got there, it was a similar model to what we're now doing in terms of trading. So when you sell Tommy, you then reinvest it, you get Sinks and you get Fally. So actually, the next one that goes, you then reinvest, but instead of taking same, you move up a market in the player that you take. So gradually, you continually, and I think if you look at the squad now to when I came in, I look at the depth, I look at the different profiles. Physically, we've got, didn't have a Twiney or a Birdie in the team when we joined in terms of that type. We didn't have a real powerful player at the top end of the pitch. I think what we've done is gradually upgraded, and that's what you do over time.
Right.
That, if you look at how Brentford got there, that's what they did. They sold a lot of players, and then instead of buying them for 200 grand, it went to $500,000. Then when they sold them for 8 million, it then went to, and you gradually increase the quality of player that you bring in through trading.
Convinced.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Rob, and Sheridan, who I've met tonight. I was lucky enough to cover the under-21s for the club in September, doing the match reports. Brian, amazing set of kids, reflective of all the age groups, as I know the 21s are mixed. Luke Skinner, brilliant to see him go through. Over that month, I saw 4 or 5 games, some amazing talent still in the academy. From flipping it on the head, obviously, Liam, you just talked about that model of the upgrades, the Jasons, the Max Birds, etc., which is superb from a supporter's point of view. From that belief amongst the kids within the academy, the pathway that is really, really important to us as a club and our identity, how do we also, and it's almost having your cake and eat it, harness that pathway still existing from the academy?
No, I agree. We want now, don't we? We want now, but we don't want it to affect the pathway of our academy players. It's becoming harder for them because the quality of the training I watch and the players that we've recruited, it's becoming harder.
Yeah.
So your Elijah Morrisons and your Josh Campbell-Slowey's trained this morning, but they're going like that because they have to stay with the group. So we're going to benefit in the long run because every player that trains there has to become a higher level. The level's going up, the bar's going up.
I was going to say, so then at the introductory level where they're brought in the first instance, is it almost having that helicopter view of the benchmark for that almost shifts up a level as well?
Yeah, at all levels.
Yeah.
And we know the profiles that we want as a football club, so we can gauge it from 13, 14 of what the player looks like that's going to play for Bristol City. So, hey, there's some good players coming through, and they will get through. They will. I watched Josh Campbell-Slowey give Sinclair Armstrong 2 yards this morning. He caught him, and he knocked him over. So that was a big tick for Josh Campbell-Slowey. Sinks wasn't very happy, but Josh, he absolutely flew. He's going to be a player for us, but he's going to have to work hard to get past Dickey, McAnally, Zach Viner.
And there's loads. I mean, you've named them just on my observations. People like Billy Phillips as well. Yeah. Great profile
Ray
player.
Nelson.
You talk about the Twines, the Max Birds. I guess you want Billy Phillips to aspire to that kind of player.
Yeah. And he's trained, and they've seen him, and they like him, and he'll continue to train.
Perfect.
To try and get to that level. Just the level's gone up.
Yeah.
So it may be harder for them or may take a little bit more time for them to get to the level.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over here. Yep. In the striped shirt there. Yeah. Thanks, Emily.
Okay, so my question is for John and Brian. So in recent years, our beloved club has become synonymous with mediocrity. Now, we all in here believe that we're the greatest club on God's green earth. I don't doubt that. However, why should we be confident that you are the right people with the right leadership to change this?
Well, if he decides I'm not, I won't be here. So that's very simple. So, yeah.
I mean, look, until we show you, you're not going to. Until we get there, you're not fully going to believe it, right? I can talk as much as I want. I mean, what I can tell you is we've never been more aligned than we are now in terms of how we work and what we all believe in, what we're working towards. I can see it improving on a daily basis. I personally think our squad has got stronger. I know we mentioned Tommy and we wanted to keep him, but I personally think we're actually a stronger squad for having been able to invest the money in different types of players, because I thought, as good as Tommy was, he was more similar to what we had in the position already. So there's loads of things I can say. The fact that we do have a strong vision in terms of what we want as a football club, we do have a way of playing in terms of, Brian's touched on it, but we've not really talked about, when you're talking about, we know from 14 or 15 whether a player's looking like they're going to make it in our team, it's because we've got sort of minimum physical attributes that you're looking for. You know, when we talk about wanting to be a pressing team, and I don't want to get into the football bits because I'm not the one to talk about it. These guys are the experts, but we want, there's kind of a minimum standard to play in our team, and we want to play that way. So whoever leaves or moves on or goes with us, whatever else, when we recruit, whether it's players, coaches, any of us, we're looking for the same thing. So, you know, we're not saying we're going to get it right all the time, but if we believe in our recruitment, which we do, and you believe in our coaching, which I do, then you're going to get there. And for me, it's you've got to believe in it and be consistent with it. There's no point saying we're going to do this and then actually we're going to go and play possession football now and play totally different, because you see it with other clubs. It takes years and years to get there. You can pick top clubs. We know what we want to be, and for me, being able to make that jump, because it's not financially, it's not a fair league, right? No. So we can all sit here and say, yeah, we want to finish top. But I can list 6, 8 teams that should finish above us. They should. If they've got everything, if they've got stability, recruitment, everything right, and they've got, you know, there's a wage bill. That wage bill should get you better players, but that's not how it works. So it's those things where you look at it now, and you know we've had plenty of injuries so far this season, but for me, when you know we've definitely had a next man up mentality. For me, we've played well through those things. So you know I look forward to the next phase of games and that, because for me, I think everyone has injuries in the league when you look at it, and for me, we don't lose a lot when we have those, because as a collective, we've got a togetherness, and everyone in the squad can do the jobs we want them to do. So you see someone step in, even when we have players put out of position, they know what the role is. There's trust between them, so you can, until you get there and you finish up there and you see it and believe it, fine, but there's little things you can see in between. And I've probably talked too much football, so hopefully these guys agree.
Anything to add, Liam, or no? No. Okay, next up. Here we go, over here.
Yeah, kind of carrying on from that a little bit, my question's for Liam. Do you think the depth of the squad at the moment is at its best since you've been at the club, and are you happy with the depth you've got in your squad? Because in the past few weeks, you've definitely been tested in certain positions.
Yeah, I think I remember when I first came in, QPR away, then international break, and then Middlesbrough, we had 4 fit senior subs, and we ran probably the best part of 2 months with that, which then brings different challenges. We were worried about the volume of training that we could do, purely from the fact that a change in training, so we'd have trained differently, how we work naturally. which carries a risk then if you change everything really quickly, increase the opportunity of risk. So again, you worry about your training. So yeah, when I look at, we've picked up a load of injuries, but we've still, been able to put out an extremely strong side. We've still been able to make changes in game that have sustained the quality or the level, if not raised it. And again, I think the big bit for me, again, I think comes back to the culture. We're going to win games, we're going to lose games, we're going to draw games, but I actually think if you turn up and see what we're trying to do, and you see that the lads are all in and they give everything, that's the bare minimum. Because he'll have a good game, he'll have a bad game at some point this season. It's then, what does that look like? And the thing, again, why straight away for me was captain in the making was just he role models everything you want. So for me, it's whatever we put out, whether it's a senior player, a young player, everybody needs to know their role and everybody needs to give absolutely everything. Doesn't mean you'll get it always right. We'll all make mistakes, we're human, which again sometimes is a different challenge with pressure. Lads sometimes get a little bit dehumanised and you forget that they worry, their confidence, pressure, etc., things that they manage internally. But again, I think when I look at it, the squad's in a really good spot where we can make changes in game. So I can take Naki off and bring on Sinks and it changes the game. Whereas last year quite often I thought Naki and Tommy were quite similar, where I'm taking one off, bringing the other on and not really changing the style of it too much. Whereas now we've got different options with you, with Anis, with Marcus, with Knighty, with Joe Williams playing Birdie deeper. We've got lots more options to change how the game looks, which when we first came in a year ago, it didn't feel like that. It was very much like for like or very similar. So I do think not only have we, I wouldn't say we just progressed in what we recruited, I also think in terms of the lads that are here have massively improved as well, from their attitude and desire to learn and work, but also the work that the staff have done behind the scenes, because I'm pretty sure Knight will tell you it's quite intense, the work we do, the team meetings, the individual meetings, the unit meetings, the volume of information we give them is quite a lot, which also takes time to train working like that. So I definitely think it's progressed in the last year, and again I think the guys deserve a huge amount of credit for that as well.
Knighty then, how intense is it, and how's it been this season in terms of competition for you guys as well?
No, it's been challenging, but like everyone's saying, if we want to get to where we want to get to, we've got to challenge each other. That's fans challenging us as players, and us players challenging each other. So, like the gaffer says, he's been really good. Him and Hoggy and all the staff have challenged us, and we've had to raise our levels. Training's raised, the games have raised, and that ultimately will make us produce better performances. And that's what long term is going to bring us forward and get us to that goal that we all want.
Question over here?
Yeah, two if I can, please. I think we have got a deeper squad. If you've alluded to it, we clearly have signed players in the summer that have added depth to that squad. That's come through in that we've had very, very few spaces even on the bench for the young academy players this year. So, I mean, Elijah, an exception in the last couple of weeks. So, I guess my question to either Brian or Liam is, have we slightly blocked the pathway with the adding depth to the squad? Second question, maybe for John or Brian, is a year ago, roughly, we made a change of manager. We wanted to move forward. We felt we weren't going in the right direction. So, slightly devil's advocate, we are 1 point better off after 15 games this season. So, are we progressing? Have we progressed?
Right, let's go one question at a time then. Let's go with the pathway. So I don't know if Liam or Brian wants to go first.
Yeah, we talked about that. The level of the squad has gone up and the quality. So it is going to be more difficult. But we want now, but we also want the pathway. We want everything, don't we? We want everything. But Elijah's had the opportunities and we'll get them. I'm sure Josh Campbell-Slowey this season will get the opportunities. So, yeah, it's tough, but we want to succeed and we want now. We want now. And sometimes them younger players will have to fight a little bit harder and it might take a little bit longer, but we've looked after that for a long time now and always made that pathway available. But we've recruited good players and they're going to have to be good to replace them. But we've got a real mentality now of we want now. We want success now. And that's why we've got a squad now that if a player or two comes out, the others won't come in. You don't, like Preston Away is a good example. When Joe Williams goes off, George Tanner goes off, and Roberts and McGuane come on and the team becomes better. So that's what we've aimed for. I think that's what we've got. And the young lads are just going to have to work even harder.
For me, there'll definitely be a pathway. There always will. And again, I think, playing against Leeds, Could have thrown many on ahead of Elijah in that last 15 minutes, same as Sheffield United. But again, I think it's testament to how he's done. But I also think it's very big in earning it. And again, I think that the players for me in terms of sometimes you can throw them on the bench when they're not quite ready, which is actually quite dangerous in that you build a false expectation or a false perception in their head. So again, I think Elijah's a really good one. Elijah finished the season terrifically well, as you saw him. Obviously, the minutes he got, came back, had a really tough pre-season, really struggled. So actually went back to the 21s for a period to get some confidence, to get some success, to consolidate, rather than he was heading in one direction, staying with us. We then brought him back up because we know we like him, we know he's going to be a good player for the club, and he's come back at a higher level. He's more assured, he's more confident, and that's the bit for me where if you just leave him in it, you potentially lose him. And again, I think that for me is really important, that it is earned, players are ready for it, and it's not just a token. I don't believe in tokenism, I think you have to earn it. So always a pathway and not afraid at all, hopefully as you've seen, to throw the young players in. I think in terms of the progress, I think for me is when you look at the games, and we've drawn probably too many games, right? But for me, you get three feelings after a draw. We've nicked a point and done well. Leeds, probably a fair result, or you're probably disappointed you've not won. And I think we've had a lot more of that one. When I think back to Hull, I think to Swansea, probably a little bit of Cardiff here. I think there's more games where I'm probably more disappointed not to have three than feeling we've stolen a point. So although when you look at it, it's a new group that is young in terms of age, but we've got quite an experience. He's played 250 games, so although he's 23, although he's relatively young, he's played a huge number of games, so he's not young in terms of experience. So I think what you look at you have to remember, I know Luke McNally took he hadn't played a game pre-season. So to expect him to come straight into a championship game where he's not played with anybody, doesn't know anybody, he's only trained for a bit and hit the ground running, football doesn't work like that. So actually when you look at it, I think he's massively improved and hit a really good level over the game since he's been here. Twiney, very similar. So I think when you look at it, Sinks and Fally will improve because of the work that we do day to day. So I think when I look at it, for me it's a long season, right? I think a very long season with a lot of games still to play. The blocks of games, Blackburn was nowhere near good enough. Derby's second half was nowhere good enough. The rest of it, I think the performance level has actually been good. And again, naturally, you're not always going to get what you want, but are we going in the right direction? I look at some of the attacking stuff early on. Most games we were 15 shots minimum, which again, compared to last year, the attacking stuff for me wasn't good enough. We didn't do that well enough. The defensive stuff picked us with points. Whereas now you're always fighting to get better at everything. And when we work at something else will get worse because I'll forget it. So you have to constantly revisit. But we're definitely moving in the direction because, again, like I said, the work that's being done.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Cameron. This is a question for Lansdown. I appreciate, obviously, what you've done to the club over the years, like your family totally, because you look at other clubs, you look at other chairmans, and obviously how they left the club in ruins. I know you've got a long-term project, which you're on about, and this going back to the previous question. Obviously, you and your father has done great over the years for the club, as obviously being chairman. Like, you've built a new stadium, obviously you've got a new academy built in, you've got these academy players coming in. I mean, I've seen the highs and lows of this football club myself, and obviously, like, my question to you guys is, you talk about your project, but over the last 5 years we've been like in the same sort of position, mid-table, lower mid-table. I mean, also going back previously before that, there was a lot of momentum, obviously when we had that change from the new stadium being built, and obviously coming up towards the playoffs, and obviously hitting Man U in the quarterfinals, Man City in the semi-finals, being second till Christmas, and then dropping down the table when Wolves went up that season, mind you. And we've had investment before with Jada Silva, Thomas Callas coming in, and we know obviously that was a high risk, and I appreciate you guys doing that, and obviously that did not work out, so that's probably why you're going with the young academy players. And yeah, the young academy players have been great, but like you said, they've been selling on. But my question to you is, you say about your long-term project, but in the last 5 years I just feel like we've stayed in the same position, and there's been overseas question that, is Bristol City a boring club? I personally think we're not, but over the last, let's say, 20 years we've had 2 promotions, 1 relegation. So, my sector is to you is, obviously, appreciate for what you're doing to this club, but, what's your long-term goals? You talk about, obviously, the academy players, building them into the Premier League, but then you're selling academy players as well. So my main question is getting to the reality of it is, what's your main long-terms? Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Can you ask that again?
Guys, let's let Jon answer.
No one will want to talk about it anymore because we're all bored of it. But the pandemic had a big effect in terms of when you're talking about the investment we made, you can look at the recruitment and say the recruitment wasn't right, whatever else. That's fine. But what you had when Mark was here, the philosophy is you were generating money through player sales to increase your wage budget, and your increased wage budget was trying to get you to the Premier League. So what you had this continual cycle of we were selling players and we were getting good transfer fees and the wage bill was going like that. And then you have a pandemic and that's gone. That's still there. So it's a very simple answer that none of us really want to think about. And yeah, I remember, I would have picked a Coventry years ago and I said they always finish mid-table, we don't want to be that. So that's not what we're aiming for. We've had pain coming out of that because to correct that isn't straightforward when there isn't a market for those players because you're not getting the transfer fees to support the wage budget. So, we would have failed financial fair play if we didn't get allowances for that. But the money's still real, right? So there's still a huge cost for mediocrity for that time, if we want to talk honestly about it. So, there's a lot of work. That's why it's important in that time to make sure that you do have a clear way you want to come back and be stronger. Doesn't make the bit in between any easier while you're in it. But look, whether you felt it or not, this summer felt a bit different for me in terms of, right, yes, we're in a position, we've produced a lot of players that allows us to go, the rules have changed slightly, we can go for some foreign recruitment as well. And for me, it's allowed you to take a definite step forward. Answering the question before, I think we're in a massively stronger position than we were a year ago. It might only be a point in the league table, but from everything I see, you've got, it's sport. Anything can happen. But in terms of, if I think what our ceiling is much higher.
Okay, should we go over here at the end of that row right there, Emily, with the glasses? Yeah. There we go.
I was determined, sorry, and I'm going to change tack a little bit. I'm well known for that, unfortunately, and being a troublemaker or other such things. And Jerry's gradually smiling over there, so I do apologise. I'm going to ask one for Jason because he sat there looking a little bit. Either I've got away with this, or I really don't know what I'm doing. So, which is a bit how I feel a lot of the time. So, Jason, just for you, sort of two questions really. One, because I'm just a mere woman and don't understand all the ins and outs of the technicalities of your role as captain, could you explain a little bit about the captain's role and what that actually includes? Because other than shouting at everybody on the pitch on a match day, there must be a lot of other work that goes into that. And the other part of that is, as a fairly new person to Bristol and to Bristol City, how would you encourage or explain or whatever to any young players or new players that were looking to come in what the benefits to them are of being here and what we can offer to them and what they can offer to us as a club?
I think on the captain's role, obviously, it probably wasn't really expected, but I think it's something I've done before. I did it at Derby. I was captain before. And then it's probably something I'm just more of a captain by a lead by example, more so. I'm not much of a shouter and a screamer, really. But like you can imagine, not much talking. But no, I try to... It hasn't affected my game anyway, really. I sort of play the same. The only thing I do different is I go and have a meeting with the gaffer before games. That's really it.
I'll jump in there, I'm going to interrupt you. He does a lot more than that. He won't admit to it. So, little things. Half-time, I'll always go, Nighty, what are you thinking, what are you feeling on the pitch? Because how they are on the pitch, I'm like you, I'm stood on the sideline, so what these guys feel. So he'll drive a lot of that conversation in the changing room. Things like, same in training, right, what do you think, what do you feel? And again, he'll drive a lot of that. He's my go-to in terms of when I ask a lot of questions of the players. It tends to be him that unfortunately has to answer it. So he does a huge amount in terms of information, driving the culture, keeping everybody on the straight and narrow. We have a leadership group, he leads that as well. So he's downplayed it. He does a huge amount of work for what you see on a Saturday. He drives a lot of it as well.
That's the sort come into football in some way, either as a player and work their way through, or as a staff member, and knowing what goes on in a role as club captain is something that they could perhaps aspire to, but want to know a little bit more about how you do that, or the work that's involved in it, apart from the training side.
Well, it is hard work. Obviously, it's a team sport, so I've got people around me. I've got the manager. I've got my players, and ultimately, I'll take responsibility for a lot of stuff that goes on. So, obviously, being the captain, you sort of get a lot of the blame as well. But I'm happy to take that. I'm happy to take responsibility when things go wrong, and I try and bring that onto the pitch as well. That's it. And then the club side of things, where you're saying, what would I tell the people who want to come here? I think, like we've talked about, the standard is raised, so nothing's being given anymore. That's young players coming up. That's me being captain. I'm not guaranteed to play Saturday. I've got to earn that in training. I've got to be at the right level every single day, and that comes from eating right, that's sleeping right, that's the little things people probably don't see, and that's what I want to bring as a captain. I want to bring a really high standard and a really ruthless dynamic to this club, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you so much. Should we go over this side? Yep.
Pete. Good evening, gentlemen. Question really for Jason. When you've played your 230 games, which was the most intimidating ground you've played at?
I've played at some good stadiums. I'm not sure. I've played in Europe before. Played against Serbia. Those teams aren't easy to play against. I don't know. Leeds is a hard place to go as well.
Okay. Reason for my question is that we all look at you guys and say, well, what are you going to do? And I'd like to sort of say, professional sport is about marginal gains. And we, in this auditorium, have some responsibility to make this a bear pit for opposing teams. How can you help us do that?
I gathered that's what you were leading towards.
Yeah, sorry. That's why you're captain. How can we help drive this club forward to where it really should be? This is just an observation. I went to Norwich last week, and that was a bear pit normally for the last 15 years or so. And I've always driven back and thought, yeah, that was tough. We went there last week. It had faded. It was no longer a bear pit. They're failing. And I reflect on how can we make this stadium a bear pit?
Of course, it's a mixture of both players and fans, I suppose. We've got to put in the performances that reflects what you want to see, and obviously we need that sort of 12th man as well out there. Sometimes when the going gets tough, to get us over the edge at home, and that home advantage, especially last season, was important because we got a lot of points late on and a lot of crucial points towards the end. So I think it's a mixture. I think it's obviously, like you say, making it a bear pit, making it a real hostile atmosphere for people to come to, and that's what we're trying to do. And we've done that well this year. There's not many people have come here and found it easy, so it's going well so far.
Okay, should we go over this side?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My question is mainly for John, but I'm pretty sure Liam can fit in as well. It's in regards to the shirt that I'm wearing, which is from the pre-season fixture between Bristol City and Willem II that happened over the summer. I'm just explaining for the people watching that can't see my shirt unless I stand up. Obviously, the show was made by Section 82, who do great things for the home atmosphere, and I've done great things for you and your family, Liam. But yeah, I just want to ask regarding that pre-season fixture, because there's two teams whose supporters have known each other for so many years, and I'm just curious as to see how that fixture finally happened. Like, who at the club contacted Willem II, and could there be a possibility of that fixture happening in future pre-seasons and maybe even games in the Netherlands?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, we were really... Pre-season gets planned incredibly early, and it was one of those where I was really keen to have the final game here before the season started. It was quite important, which fortunate enough we were able to do. And then we wanted a decent level opposition as well. I think, especially when you're preparing to go into such a difficult season with such difficult games. So actually, it was through Matt Parsons, to be fair, who does a terrific job. We reached out to a few people, and madly, there's agents that will organise matches for pre-seasons, and it came about through that. So Matt brought it, and obviously, educated me as well on the the relationships between the fans. So for me, it was a no-brainer to put it on. And as for how the game was, I thought it was exactly what we wanted, and something that I'd definitely be open to doing again in the future, be it here or away.
Hi. So going back to the young players that are slowly coming into the team, well, slowly but surely. How is, for Liam, what is it like to manage these players, and what's their work ethic? Sorry, I'm just really nervous. What's their work ethic like? And Jason, what is it like to play with these players, and how eager are they?
Hey, well done. Good question. I think, and I have to give Brian and it's one thing that really hit me straight away when I walked through the door. And I watch a lot of the academy games, to be fair, and me and Brian having a coffee every single morning and talk football and players. And the one thing that hit me straight away was the work ethic and the values of the players. It doesn't matter if you're the best player or not. Brian's hot in terms of making sure everybody's all in and works hard and competes and runs and scraps and fights, which for me, especially in modern society, is not always a given. So again, especially when we're talking around elite sport and elite performance and what we need to do, they're the bits I need to trust when I pick a team, that I'm putting players on the pitch that are going to give everything. And again, I think that's not always easy. It sounds easy to just turn up and run, but actually it's a lot harder. 268 sessions roughly over the course of a season. To turn up, I'm sure you've all gone to work and had a bad day. It's not easy, especially with us being on them for absolutely everything. So it's one of those, the young lads that come up are great, and we've had so many over the course of this season so far. I'm sure some of you maybe at Aldershot with Leo, when Leo Peakover came on that day, is another one that's not been mentioned because he's been out injured. It's one that's really exciting. And what we've got, I think, is because we've got a lot of young lads that understand it and are probably closer in age, are hugely supportive in terms of the young players coming up. And saying that, still drive them. I think that's the biggest bit. I say it to the young players all the time, don't be happy to be here. If we have Tommy Backwell's one that spent pre-season with us, your job's, Tommy, is to get ahead of 90. So don't be happy to train with us, come and show me that you're better. How are you going to force him out of the team? Same as on Elijah every day, how are you going to show you that you're better than the man in front of you? And I think that's the big bit that we push, and the guys do a great job in terms of the culture that we set of getting that right balance of pushing but also supporting, because naturally some of the lads can be a little bit nervous.
Yeah, and I think going from 18s, 21s to the men's team is completely different. You're going out playing in front of a couple hundred people too, out in the bear pit out there in front of 25,000. So it's completely different. The level expected of you is massive, and obviously all these people in there, it feels like there's a lot of pressure on them. So that's going to take time. That takes training sessions. That takes us, manager, me as captain, believing in them. And certain lads need certain things to get them through. Some need a kick up the arse, some need a hand around the shoulder, you know what I mean? And that's the way it is. So, but the youngsters we have coming through are very, very solid, have a great work ethic, and there's a good future for them coming through.
Great. Shall we? Yeah, go.
So once we get to the Premier League level, how do we plan to stay there? And if we don't manage to stay there, how are we going to stop the club from falling down even more, like previous clubs have?
Great question.
When we get there, John's going to invest about 500 million in the team. I've got that in writing, by the way. So, it's how you do it when you get there, isn't it? Different clubs go a different way. They try and give the players the opportunity who've got them there. Some invest in the best players in the championship to know that if you come back down, you're going to be competitive to go back up. But I think we'd be very sensible in the way we do it. You wouldn't go out and try and sign too many players, and you'd give the lads the opportunity because they're young and hungry to get there, and we're hoping they're going to be Premier League players. So I think it would be a very sensible approach, and we wouldn't go. John would be buzzing here, by the way, but we wouldn't go mad and go and try and sign too many top players for the. Well, you couldn't afford them probably, but that's the way I'd go anyway.
And look, I think it's the same thing, right? If you're refining what you do to get there, it just allows you to, at the moment, I'd certainly say if we took the summer, we had a very good hit rate in terms of our top targets and what we managed to bring in. It just allows you, it just opens the net of what you can go for. So, look, the same as Brian said, though, if we're good enough to get there, then you're going to give everyone the chance to keep you there as well, whilst trying to improve the quality of your squad. I think you've got to do that. So you do that with a belief if you're going to stay there. But the other part of your question is what you don't want to do is ever put the club at risk if it doesn't. We spoke about earlier, no one wants to be a yo-yo club. Of course you don't. You want to get there, stay there, and then improve, which you've seen clubs like Brighton and Brentford do. You've seen other clubs who do come down, but then they go back and then they're stronger. You certainly wouldn't plan to be anywhere in between or put anything at risk.
Oh my, okay. Should we go at the back there, Emily? Yep.
Liam, these are questions for you. Obviously, with the January transfer window coming up soon, have you got any transfer targets in your mind at all?
This is being streamed, huh? Look, I think we had a really busy, summer in terms of what we brought in. I think if you look at the size of the squad, it's quite big as it is. So there's constant conversations for now and the summer. And again, I think two bits. Window to window, you can be proactive with the work you do when you kind of assess what we've got in the squad, who needs to stay, who do we need to move on, what do we need to free up, or the same as who do we need to bring in and target. And then there's other bits which happened this window as well. We have to be a little bit reactive as well. So for me, the work we do is to be prepared for both. So I'm not going to go into it in huge depth. We're constantly talking around what does it look like in January, and then what does it look like beyond that. And it links to some of the academy stuff. What I'd never want to do, and what I know we'd never do, is if we've got someone that we think is nailed on and is going to be ready in 6 months, a year, we'd never sign anyone to block that pathway, which I think is really important as well. So you can only do that if you're working 2-3 windows ahead. I think if it's just window to window, you potentially sign someone, you could block one of the your big talents. So that's why for me how we work is constant. The recruitment lads are brilliant. God knows, I get a report in terms of on Monday of how many games, and they're about 70-80 games a week they watch. And there's about 45 of those are on video, and there's about 20-25 games that are covered live every week by the recruitment department. So it's just such a constant process, which for me, as I start to get closer to the window around this time, I start to put more energy into it in the meetings that we have. When the window shuts, it all then goes into making sure that we do that, and we pass on to Sean, who does a great job in the recruitment department.
Okay, let's go middle back there, because we haven't heard from there. In the yellow shirt over there? Jerry, sorry. Middle of that row, yep. Thank you.
Hopefully a little bit of a fun one following with the transfer stuff, and I guess is pointed towards Brian and Liam a little bit. Bearing in mind that I appreciate this is a far more complex answer in terms of squad building, if you could pick any player in the summer to have had from the Championship who fits the way that you want to play as a team, who would you have had? And I appreciate it's fantasy football world, but yeah.
Can you pick a different league?
yeah, it's a good shout. Can we do a different league? I don't know.
I think the thing is the goals. You need goals, don't you? So if we sold Tommy Conway and we had 8 million to spend, you go and get Ellis Sims, wouldn't you, or a Hadji Wright at 7 million. But we don't do that. But that would probably be the one. Sims or a Wright would hopefully give you the goals that would make the difference.
I'd have Gyökeres, isn't it?
Or Gyökeres before he went from Company would be even better. Yeah, definitely. But it's tough. It's a tough one, isn't it? Yeah. They'd be one of the two, I think.
Okay. Let's go here.
Question for John. There's been some talk about new investment coming into the club. So my question is that Bristol City? Is that Bristol Sport? And then depending on who approaches you, does Bristol Sport perhaps make the whole deal more complicated, or can you sort of strip out the club if someone comes in and says, I want to invest in Bristol City but not the rest of Bristol Sport? What's your thinking around that? Presumably there must be some sort of strategy around that, depending on who you're talking to and what their aims might be.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Not everyone's interested in everything, right? If you're talking about that, and we've also got the arena development next door, so you've got people interested in property elements of it. So, look, I mean, if you're talking purely from a football club point of view, if you want someone to come in and invest in the football club, for me, the perfect scenario is someone coming in partnership who can add something that we don't already have, whether that's, I mean, people talked about Brentford and Brighton before, you know, and where it's come from betting. Part of where they would have been in terms of recruitment is they've got tools they use for those industries that are unique to them, that have allowed them to identify players others haven't. And, you know, I think we've come a long way to being pretty focused and more modern and precise in how we recruit. But certainly anyone who can bring something that we don't have, and also, you know, in terms of actual investment, would be a welcome addition from my point of view. But it's like you say, different people are going to be looking at different things. So for me, it's, you know, this is the club I love, so we're a custodian of the club. It's got to be what's right for the football club, and, you know, if I can make someone up, that's what they would be. But yeah, to actually answer the other bits, yes, people can talk about different things.
Okay, should we come down here, Jerry? Sorry. Second row, yeah.
Hi, chaps. With the summer signings, I don't think any of us kind of saw that 34-year-old Naki Wells would be spearheading our attack. With the new signings, Fally and Sinks, are they kind of on schedule with their progression as a first-team squad, or like, are they taking by surprise that they haven't kind of hit the ground running, especially Fally? We haven't seen a lot of him really in the game, so what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you can't put a time on people learning and when it sinks in, certain bits. I think in terms of, so that's why it's hard to put a schedule on it, but I think in terms of, Fally's a great example in terms of, if you actually look at what he'd done wasn't a huge number of games, and again, I think Fally's going to be a really exciting player. What he needs is time, support, and work on areas that he needs to get better at. His strengths are excellent. You know, you saw his finishes, obviously, and he sets an expectation really high early on, which, you know, what we know with them is we knew we weren't going to get 46 games out of them. That's not what they're ready to do. That's not where they're at. But I know over the course of the season, Fally, Sinks and Naki, the three of them, and that was the plan for doing all three. My job's then to juggle and try and get the best out of them at the right time in those 46 games. But when you look at it, I think Sinks has excited everybody in the room. Well, you know, working hard on the finishing element, but if you look at the power he brings, the reason we were able to get him is because previously he hasn't scored loads of goals. If he had, he's worth 15, 20 million pounds, we don't get him. So we know the areas we need to work at with him, and what I think the biggest attraction is when you look at him, and Knight obviously knows him from the Island setup, but how hard he trains, his work ethic, his desire to improve and learn is there. So the work is continuous with the two of them. Naki's on a hot streak at the minute. Doesn't mean that we're 11 games in 6 weeks coming up, we're going to need Sinks and we're going to need Fally, and the two of them are continually improving. And again, how we work, we give the boys a huge amount of information, which is also different if you look at Sinks coming from QPR, where he'd had maybe 5-6 coaches in 2-3 years. That instability, he's now got a bit of stability and consistency with his learning, which I can't put a time on when that's all going to sink in, but he's definitely improving day to day.
Okay, brilliant.
Let's go over here. Conscious want people that haven't asked before. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Just a question in regards to you, really. How's he getting on? Anyone, you know, whoever feels, you know, what's his story? How's he settling in the UK in Bristol? I mean, who's he here with? You know, and I think he's. How are you looking after him, Jason? How's it going?
You settled in great, to be fair. He's obviously a bit of a fan's favourite at the moment because he's really bubbly. He's learning on his English as well, so that's going well. And he's obviously been really exciting on a football aspect as well. You can see in snippets what he can bring to the squad as well. So, no, he's been great around us lads. We've obviously had to look after him a bit because the language barrier, and he's moved across the world really. So no, it's been great having him in, and I think he's enjoyed it as well.
How is his English now compared to when we first met you? And
Yeah. To be fair, well, we can say hello to each other now, which is great. Like, no, I know he's doing a few lessons at the club every week, so he's putting a lot of effort into it. I know a couple of lads have tried to learn how to say hello and stuff, which is a nice touch. But he seems to be enjoying it, and it's shown on the pitch as well.
But I mean, just to carry on from that, I mean, Liam, it must be tactically, and you know, a lot of tactical stuff goes into what you guys do, of course. So trying to feed that into someone that is Japanese must be, you know, quite complex in itself, really. So how does that work? Is there anyone with him, or I'm just curious with regards to a Japanese forward player playing for our club, you know?
Yeah. No, I think in terms of what we try to do actually with all the lads. So, for example, we did a meeting this morning. So we got obviously Burnley a weekend. We split when we were Saturday game. We split the meeting in two. So we did a meeting this morning on what we want to do in possession, and we'll show clips on Burnley, and then we'll show clips on us, and we animate and things move. So the players will see their positions and what we're asking them to do. And then we'll do another meeting on Friday where I'll give them the team and we'll do the same process, and then we train it. So for me, we try to give them it through video and animations. We do on a tactics board. We go through it on the grass, and I talk about it. So in terms of it, you try and tick off every basis where there's no hiding place for me to say, look, I've asked you to do this. I think under that then, and this is where I think the lads have made strides from last year, and you know you're starting to see it. I think is really we have the structure and elements which, if you look at any championship side now, they're well coached, well set up, well organised. There's a real fine line for me, and what I always want the players to do is be clear on what we're trying to do, but also have freedom within it. I don't want players to step on and try and play pattern A to B to C, because if you throw D in the mix, what do? So we try to go really hard after decision making and freedom with them, and almost educate them why they make the decisions they do. Because I think the second you do that, I see football very much as cat and mouse. If we go in behind you and you drop off, then we'll go through you. You step forward again, then we'll go over you. And again, I think that's the bit where that takes a little bit longer, because you're asking them to understand why they make decisions rather than just telling them to do something. And again, I think use English is continually getting better. We actually spoke with someone in the J League and sent them a load of our vocab and language that we use to get it translated. So common words that I shout or that the staff use, we've had them translated so he knows what they are. But quite often, football in Japan is the same as football here. So actually, when you put them on the pitch, they feel it. He's an intelligent player, and he's playing with other intelligent players. So you get that, like the Preston goal, right? The third goal with Birdie and you get them on the same wavelength. His name brings a lot of challenges, though, because I often shout "you" at him, and I get about 5 heads turn and look at me.
Okay, we've got time for a few more, and then we'll go to online questions.
Just a quick one more on like the sports science sort of world of things. How closely, Jason, would you work with like the sports scientists? Like if you have a nutritionist, sports psychologist, if that's at the club, or is that something the club as a whole you want to grow maybe?
Every day, really. We actually had a meeting earlier on about our nutrition and how we can improve that every day. Sports science, we do every day. I know it's probably not seen to the outside world and the fans, but we're constantly working on gym programs, upper body, lower body, how we can improve our plyometrics and stuff like that. It's all just trying to get those little 1%, so on the Saturday that we're fully prepped and ready to hit the ground running.
What about like obviously you mentioned sleep earlier. Is that all your sleep then also monitored as an athlete, like each week or each night? Then
Got these rings now, so we're tracked every single night.
Hence he's sitting there taking it off as we speak.
So yeah, it's all done properly. Like everything's monitored. And it's not them watching us. It's to get the best out of us, and then it's us wanting to do it as well, because you find yourself going to bed a bit earlier because you want a good score in the morning. So it is. No, it's good. It's good. Everyone's really moving in the right direction with it.
Okay, should we go in the Bristol City top over there? Don't think we've had a question from you. Thank you.
Evening all. Just the chap over there mentioned a very good point about trying to make this place a fortress. Now, having been to a few games, one of the things that we notice is on the outside of the south stand, for example, I know on a game you might put a red light on it, but is there any chance we can get a badge on it or something that means Bristol City, or obviously Bears player as well? I see obviously the graphic on the ticket office, you've got a 50-50 split. With obviously technology now, can we not have Bristol City badge on it on a Saturday, and then the following week you could put a Bears badge on it, because that is, you know, our home. At the moment it's just a white, you know, board. And secondly, before COVID, we were obviously allowed to sit next to the Fulham fans, where we had a third of us next to them. Personally, I think it makes the atmosphere a lot more better and harder for away teams to come here. I know obviously in the past, at home, obviously under Nige, it took us, 20 odd games to get a win at home, whatever it was. I think if we could try and improve that, could we play better? Obviously I know second half, if they're way end attacking to their fans, if we had our guys in there as well, would that make a difference? Personally, I would say yes, but obviously that's kind of out of your hands a little bit, potentially because of policing. But would that be something that you'd be prepared to look at, as well as possibly including a larger area of safe standing?
Yeah, look, I think the safe standing thing, I know that certainly Tom Rawcliffe is ongoing sort of project with Supporters Club and Trust talking about what the possibilities are. I mean, like there's practicalities behind that and other things that go on in the stadium as well, and it's not something I'm personally close to, but the atmosphere itself is important. I think we touched on it earlier. Like, I think if you try and think back, when have you experienced the best atmospheres? It's normally when we're playing well. So there are other elements to it, but look, there's bits to it. And it's the same with saying who, you know, when you're saying there's responsibility in the room as well. It goes both ways, right? We've got to be performing, and there's got to be belief. So, I mean, you take the Millwall game for example. The fans never stopped in the Millwall game, and there could have been times before where you go 3-2 down, having been ahead, and you're thinking, but it didn't. So, like, it's those elements that are the most important. It's not to say you wouldn't look at the others, but for me, the most important bits are your results, but more your performance and your belief as well. I think that's when you get the best atmosphere. And we've shown you can create an atmosphere here. We've tried to do small bits in the summer in terms of not, you know, trying to get the attendance in the South Stand up, because there were definitely gaps last year. I'm not saying there aren't gaps this year, but in terms of not selling more season tickets in there, encouraging families into the family area and selling more match-to-match tickets in here. Because yes, you want the home end, you want the support. We do get great support. But for me, it's, you know, all those elements are important, and we'll look at them. But first and foremost, it's got to be giving you the belief to get behind. In terms of the ATO, there are impracticalities to doing it. It is, fan experience-wise, it is the worst place to sit. It doesn't mean you wouldn't want to, but practicality-wise, if we're selling out and we can do it, then it's something you can look at practical-wise. I don't think. It's the reality of, if you open that up, who's going to want to sit in there specifically? Is it that many, or are people? I think people would prefer to be here with a bigger safe standing or whatever else. I think you just got to look at the things together. In terms of the signage, that's something we can go away and have a look at. To be honest, I know we use the screens and everything else. You're right, it's digital, and I don't know the other area you're talking about there. But if it's, you know, nighttime games, yes, you could definitely project something in the daytime. I don't know if it's physical. Yeah.
We don't have that. Leicester, they got all the blue. I know obviously they're the only team to play there, which is fine. But obviously, you know, we've got digital. Can we not make a badge up or something on match day? Not necessarily, but on a match day, can we have our logo or our brand on our stadium? Like a lot of clubs do, when you go and watch the team wear, turn up and you think, oh yeah, we know the Southampton players because they've got their badge on the back.
That's a fair point.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more. Should we go to the back there?
Evening, gents. I've got two questions, if that's okay. The first one's for Jason. Do the players still do initiation songs, and what's the best one since you've been at the club?
Yeah, we do actually. It's starting to go out of the game a little bit now, but we've tried to keep it going. I don't even know what the best one's probably the worst one, isn't it? I suppose. We've had a couple of good ones this year. You was quite good. you sang something in Japanese, but it got everyone up on their feet, so that was great. And we even get the staff to do it, to be fair, which is good. No, it's a good part. It sort of gets you uncomfortable in a way, gets you into the squad, makes you feel at one with the group. So it's a good little addition.
And then my second question is for Liam. So you talk about having a young squad, which I think we can all see there's a lot of promise there. But with a young squad, typically comes inconsistency. So how do you try and limit that inconsistency with young players?
Yeah, I think a big part is habit forming. So again, I think that's the importance of a pre-season, a training program, and then the consistency in what they do day to day. I think it's just continuous. So I coach as well, so I'll clip every post-match. So some of it will be video where we sit with players, some of it will be just to reflect on things that were good. I'm a big believer in showing people what they're good at. I think that's really important. And the bits they need to improve and get better at. And it's just a continuous ongoing cycle. And I think the bit we do then is once we've identified, right, these are the things, we don't change game to game. I think that's quite important. That I think if you look at learning and you go to a maths lesson, you do a different thing in maths every single lesson, you're not actually going to nail down any learning. So I think football elements of it are quite similar. You look at a player and go, what does he need to work at to hit that level of consistency? And then we look at the video for a period of time until he's learned it in his habit. So rather than change game to game, we have a thread underneath everything that is quite consistent for the individual. So 90's no different. We do a lot of video, right, where we've been looking at certain bits of 90's games since I've been here that have been probably quite consistent for quite a period of time. And then that tends to lead to the next thing. So for me, it's habit forming every day and reinforcing similar messages that allows them to progress and get better.
We've got time for one more and then we'll do some online questions. So someone that... You've already asked a question, am I right? No? Okay, go ahead. We'll go over here. I got told, didn't I?
Maybe more to Liam, but maybe Brian might be able to answer some of this. In terms of week in and week out and throughout the different season, how do you prepare and improve the training to make the best out of each individual players?
Yeah, I obsess on planning, so we spend a huge amount of time planning some of the sports science stuff. So we'll sit with them departments to go through, right, what do we need to hit this session, what does it look like, and then within that, we're fortunate we've got a terrific group of staff that will deliver a team session that will link to some of the principles of play and how we want to play, underpinned by the behaviours, but then within that, certain staff, so Alex Bawley, who stepped up from the academy to work with us recently and is now with us, he'll target certain individuals within that. So if we can give him the individual work within the team session, that gives it the most context. If, for example, we don't hit a certain individual, then around it, which I really enjoyed today, because for me, the training ground, and again, I think football shifted a little bit where everyone's on the minute and how many minutes you can do and this, that, whereas we're very much, it's driven by football, so let's play football. So at the end of training today, the thing that hit me, I saw Bawley had Anis and Max Bird and you doing some finishing work. One of the other staff, they were actually practicing throw-ins, because throw-ins are part of the game that drives me insane. Another one of the other staff was doing some receiving stuff for Luke McNally and Hayden Roberts. So when I looked at the pitch, it was exactly what I want it to look like at this club. The academy is exactly the same in that all the players, and it's not just the ones that are playing, everybody's getting the work that's going to make them better. So that's the on-pitch stuff, and then there's loads of stuff off-pitch, whether it be certain individual actually needs to gain muscle mass. His program will be more linked to then the gym. Other people might be, use a big chunk of use early on was actually just an adaptation to living in England, which is a completely different culture. So we went big on him with English lessons. He was having 2 English lessons a week. So it all depends on individually what they need, and then us as a group of staff will meet every 6-8 weeks to go, right, are they working on the same things or do they change?
And that's similar with Elijah Morrison. When he came out the first team, went back to the 21s, it was explained exactly what he needed to improve on to get back to there. So he comes back, the 21 staff work with him daily, and then when Liam sees him next time, he goes, oh, he's gone another level. And then he ends up staying there. So it's exactly the same as it goes down. When they train with the first team, there's always a conversation with the staff in the 21s. He came up, he did this well, needs to improve in this, needs to do this. They crack on. Next time they go, you hope he's going to say, oh, I saw an improvement in da-da-da. So it's a constant between every team, 18s, 21s.
Thank you. Okay, so as we are streaming, we will include some from online. But a question for Jason. Dan Squire says, thank you for what you've done for us so far. You alluded to being new to the club. What was your view on our club from when you played against us, and what do opposition clubs and players think of us from the outside?
It's tough. I played against Bristol City a good few times, to be fair, coming through at Derby. And it's a tough place to come. Like you say, the players that were here, Antoine and Alex Scott and stuff like that, it's a tough place. And they're always a good team with good individuals. So I never had an easy game. I don't know what the ratio to wins and stuff is, but I never thought coming to Bristol City was an easy game. Like any game in the Championship, granted, but it was never something I thought was going to be an easy day out.
Okay, this one's for probably Brian and Liam. Following our foray into foreign markets this summer, did anything surprise you, and did you get any learnings from this that will benefit us in future transfer windows?
What you end up doing is you end up probably using two agents. So you use a one from England and a one from the country that you're recruiting. So that was a little bit different for us. But it's really interesting to hear and how other countries now, other people think, and especially of us now. And as I said before, once we showed them the facility and we spoke to them and what we wanted to do, and they come here, it was amazing that I think we only had one, didn't we? Silla, who we were really close to, who we missed out the last minute. But every player who come and seen the facilities and talked, and Liam gives them a presentation on the football club and what we're trying to do, then they wanted to come here. But yeah, it is interesting. Sean deals a lot with it, but they're really impressed when they come here and see what we're doing.
And in a similar vein here, Daniel Vickery asks, how likely is it we'll see another Alex Scott coming through the academy?
Yeah, hopefully. I think that was an unbelievable rise from him, from playing for Guernsey. In 3 years, we sell them for 25 million. Unbelievable. What a talent. And it's funny because he was at Bournemouth, he was at Southampton, and they both released him. So Tony Vance, the manager at Guernsey, gave me a heads up and said he was playing in their first team at 16 and he was outstanding. And when he came, we organised the game at Yate for him to play, and like within 25 minutes he scored a left foot, a right foot, and a header. So get him off, and we were over to Guernsey the next day and signed him. So I'd love to find another one, but I'm not sure we're going to get too many Alex Scott, I'm afraid.
Okay, and to finish off, we'll have a squad question. Trevor Harvey says, a lot of fans are wondering, should Max O'Leary get injured? Are you satisfied with the quality of the backup keepers, or are you on the lookout for another goalkeeper?
That was a big breath in over there. I think Steph's done well. I think it's always tough, I think, because I get to see Steph every day, and I'm fully aware that probably everybody in the room doesn't. So again, I think when you look at Steph, I think his attitude's been terrific, how he trains, the quality he's got at times. What you don't know, and what I don't know a huge amount, is how he performs in games. But on what he's done in training, he's been excellent. And I'm sure Knight will vouch for that, how he is. I thought he did well in the Coventry game here as well. So again, it's like a young player until you put people in, you never know. But again, I think Max is, since we've been here, is at a really consistent level, and is pushing. And as with everything, I think is across the whole squad, everything's around how do you get better. So whether it be goalkeepers, fullbacks, whatever it is, and that's whether it's in-house or external, everything's around how do you raise the bar, how do you move things forward, how do you get better. And that's on players, that's on staff, that's the culture that we want at the club, is around being progressive, moving forward, and it's no different for second choice keeper to it is to any other position. Everybody's got to turn up. Like Knight said early on in the meeting today, basically saying, you've got to turn up and prove your worth every single day.
And we've got some really good ones coming through.
Yeah,
Joe Duncan, Jose Casagrande, Jack Whitchard's a really good keeper. Yeah. So we've got some really talented ones coming through. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Great. Just very quickly.
Bristol Sport, we've got Bristol Bears playing at an elite level, maybe more an elite level than a football club because they're at the top level of their game. What cross-fertilisation is there between them? Like with you, Pat Lamb, sports science, recruitment. They have some amazing recruitment, like finding a guy who's playing in Israel, Gabriel Abatoya. There's guys who've dropped out the game, a guy who had a heart attack, a French guy. You know, they seem to have a really kind of eccentric but quite, you know, a unique way of approaching managing the club. How much do you...
Yeah, look, I speak to Pat a bit. We actually went for dinner, our staff, their staff, and had 3.5 hours where we just literally sat down. And again, I've been to a few games. I went to the Flyers at the weekend, so I'm really interested because I do think so much transfers across all fields. So we've had their analyst in as well and sat with them. We've, you know, their movement coach. So it's definitely then identifying what does transfer, what doesn't. But in terms of shared learnings, I'd say it's a massive strength of ours. I think it's a terrific opportunity to sit down. Like I said, when we sat with Pat, I was fascinated about him sitting upstairs, whereas I'm touchline. So how does he get his messages on the pitch? How does that look? How do you use your leadership group, which we run very similar to rugby, in terms of, you know, one thing which we're working on. You know, when you concede a goal, what do? How do you then get realigned and refocused and almost cut that emotional breaker of either the elation or disappointment and actually go, right, let's get aligned. The next 2 minutes we're doing this, which, you know, when you watch rugby, you know, you concede a try, group will get together under the posts. So there's little bits, there's little conversations that we're having with the lads that will gradually drip in. So yeah, I'd say it definitely happens as and when schedules allow, because everybody's so busy.
And recruitment?
Yeah, we've met their recruitment team. They've been to the HPC and we've talked a lot. It's a little bit different, but yeah. I get what you're saying. We want to find wherever they are.
There's little diamonds.
Yeah, wherever they are. Because we're open now with the new rules to recruit from a lot of different places.
Jason, do you meet the players? Because there's some amazing personalities in the players. You know,
Bronco.
Van Rensburg and people like, you know, England players, Genge. Do you meet them? Do you socialise?
I met them like a couple of times. We went there in pre-season to do a bit of training, do the Bronco tests and stuff like that, and test ourselves against them. And thankfully, a few of us did better than them guys, which is good because they're carrying about 50 kilos more. But no, it was interesting to see their sort of setup and how they sort of go about a training day. But I haven't had too many dealings. I came to a game recently when they played Gloucester, and that was it was a different kind of atmosphere. Everyone's obviously amongst each other, which was different. So not too many dealings, but it was great to see the whole club.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming and for asking such amazing questions. And they certainly didn't run out, did we? So thank you. Thank you to Brian, John, Liam and Jason. And we'll see you again soon.